Hey guys, and welcome back to another Python tutorial. So as promised, I'm going to show you guys today how to create the banking system that we created using object-oriented programming, but in this time we're actually going to make it a GUI app. So using tkinter, we're going to try and create the same banking app that we did using a console application for object-oriented programming, but this time we're going to make it graphical. We're going to have these features in it, so we're going to allow the user to register for an account, we're going to allow the user to log in. Bear in mind our database is going to be a text file, so all the details that are going to be stored are stored in a text file for us, or just like a blank file. And then we're also going to allow the user to deposit money because it's a banking app, and every time the user deposits money we need to update the amount or balance in the file. We need to allow for the user to withdraw money and allow them to update the file again. We also need to allow the user to view balance and personal details, and if needed we need to allow them to edit personal details. So as you guys see, I have a lot of things in mind, and this is sort of like a realistic bank GUI app sort of thing, so that you can add it to your portfolio and stuff. So we're going to be adding real life like validation and all that. So this tutorial might run for about 2 to 3 videos, so be patient, and I'll try and upload as frequently as possible to try and keep part 1, 2 and 3 one day after the other. So that's enough of the introduction. I'm going to copy these. Actually, I'm going to leave them over here because I kind of have them noted down somewhere else. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new file, new text file, and I'm going to call this banking GUI app.py. Now, before I do so, I'm going to create a new folder as well, and I'm going to call this banking GUI app. Now, this is because I'm going to have assets as well, like images and all the user files which are going to be stored in there. So I'm just going to wait for this folder to save. Seems like it's crashed for some weird reason. Give it a second. Okay, here it is. So banking GUI app, we have that open now. I'm going to go ahead and Control X and paste that in there. Now I've also looked for an image already. I'm going to go ahead and extract that from my email. So it's just a basic PNG file that I've got over here. Go ahead and download whichever images you want to use for your banking app. I'm going to use just one, and I just want to kind of show you guys how to do it, like import the image. That's why I'm going to be using an image. Make sure you have all your files in one directory. So mine's in my banking GUI app folder, yours should be in your folders. So the py file and the image file should be in the same folder. Now I'm going to go ahead and edit my file and open it in idle. So first off, what I'm going to do is do my imports. So I'm going to make a little comment and say imports, and then from tkinter import star, which means imports everything from tkinter. We are going to be using the operating system or OS module in this tutorial so that we can read how many files are there, which are going to represent the different user accounts. So import OS, And then finally, for the image to be shown in our tkinter app, we need something called a pillow module. So we need to do from pil import image tk comma image. Right. So for most of you guys, you're not going to have this module installed already. So I'm going to show you guys how to install the module quickly. I'm going to save this up, minimize this down, go ahead and open my command prompt, and now in here you need to type in pip install, and then you will type in pillow. Press enter, and then it should do the rest of the stuff for you. So it's saying installing, and it says successfully installed pillow. Now if this doesn't work for you, that just means that you haven't installed Python in your system path. You can quickly look up a tutorial for it, or you can uninstall and install Python again, but while installing it again, make sure that you are taking on the add to system path option, and that would allow you to pretty much use the pip module, or the pretty much the module manager, which is pip right here, to install different modules for you. I'm going to close this off because I've already installed that now. Now we're heading back to our py file, which is right here. And now if I run this quickly just to see if my modules are working, I have a clear sign of no errors. So all my modules are working. Perfect. Let's go ahead. Now since I've got that working, I'm going to go ahead and create my main screen. and then it's going to be called master, and then I'm going to use TK to initialize the screen. I'm going to set a title for my screen, which is going to be banking. If you guys find this tutorial a bit too fast or too paced for you guys, I've got tutorials for beginners based on tkinter and how to play with the different graphic widgets, which will kind of get you up to mark and help you follow around this tutorial quicker. So I'm going to be linking all those videos in the description just in case you want to watch them. So we've got our main screen now. I'm going to run this and show you what this looks like. That's about all. So initializing master equals TK gives us this little pop-up window right here, and then master.title gives it this title right here, which is banking up. Now if I close this off, I can go ahead and do my image import. So we need to import the image first of all before we actually assign it to a label and then stick it onto our screen. Create a new variable called image, assign that to our image module, .open, and then you need to mention the name of your file. The name of my file is secure.png. So that's going to sort me out. We also need to overwrite the variable after that, so image equals image.resize, because I want to resize my image to a specific size, 150 by 150, double brackets, and then finally image, we need to convert this image that's just been opened into a tkinter format based image so that it can actually read it and place it. So image tk, which is another module we just imported, dot photo image, and then pass in the image object. Now once that's complete, you might want to run your program just to see if you have any errors. Mine doesn't, so that's all good. Now I'm going to go ahead and create some labels for my screen. So my first label is going to be the title, so it's going to be like a little header that says what this app is all about. Now a label just lets you put text on the screen. So label brackets master, because that's where I'm going to place my label, comma text equals custom banking beta. Font, you can also send the font by equaling that to whichever font you want. I'm going with Calibri. And then you can also specify what font size you want in there. Close it with one bracket and another bracket to close the whole thing off, and now I'm going to place it. So in the previous tutorial I showed you guys briefly how to use grid, so I'm going to use grid now to place this. So grid, I'm going to place it on row 0, and then it's going to be sticky equals north, which pretty much means put this in the middle of the screen on the very top, and then padding y equals 10, which means it's going to be from the, let me just run this to show you what that means. Run this quickly, and if you see right here, oh my god, where did it go? There it is. So if you see right here, this custom banking beta text has a bit of space from the top of the application. That's what the pad y or padding y does. It leaves top and bottom space. So 10 from the top and 10 from the bottom, because we're using y. If we used x, it would leave 10 from the left and 10 from the right. So that's that. We've got a little title going. Now, not to waste any time, I'm going to copy the label again because I need to do another label just to make our app look sort of realistic. So I'm going to go ahead and change the text for it to most secure bank you've probably used. Of course, right? Anyway, I'm going to change the font size to 12 because it's like a little teaser text, and then the row will equal 1 for me. Sticky will equal north, and I'm not going to add any padding because it's already going to have padding from the previous one. Run this now, and we have a nice looking application. Doesn't look ready at all, but we've got 2 labels on it. Let's make it look a bit more beautiful. Now I'm going to add the image in. Now we need to assign the image that we've stored in our img variable to a label. So label, we want to place it on master, and then instead of text we're going to mention that we want to use an image. We use the image attribute and then assign it to the image variable that we just stored, and then we place it on the screen using grid. I want to do it in row 2, and then sticky north because I want it to be in the center of the screen, and then padding y equals 15 because I want it to have a bit of space from the top and bottom. Cool. So it's looking a bit more decent now. We have custom banking beta, the most secure bank you've ever used, and we've got a nice little image showing up as well. Now we're going to have 2 buttons on the screen, one saying login and the other one saying register. In this tutorial, I'm just going to cover until the register button and how the code's going to actually register the user or validate that all fields are completed and all that stuff. In the next tutorial, we're going to try and get a bit more closer to the finish point, but if we don't finish in the next one, unfortunately this might be extended to 3 tutorials. But I'm going to make sure that we complete all the user requirements that we discussed in the start. So next thing that we want, since we're done with the labels, is buttons. As I said, we're going to have 2 buttons, so call the button widget by typing capital B button, and then I want to place it on the master, text equals register, because one of the buttons register, the other one is going to be login. And I'm going to type in command. Actually, we'll wait for the command for a bit, because if I don't create the function, then it's going to get annoyed and give me an error. Font equals Calabrian, 12. And I'm actually going to go ahead and set a width for this, so I'm going to do a width of 20 for the button, and then I'll place it finally, row equals 3, sticky equals north, because I want it in the middle. Perfect. I'm just going to have to copy and paste the same thing down here again for my login button. So I'm going to change the text to login, of course, and then we only have to change the row to 4. The rest of the stuff should be just fine. Now, since we've got the buttons covered as well, what we can go ahead and do is quickly run this to program to see what it looks like. Right, so it is working, but this register and login button are really close to each other, so let's go ahead and add some padding. So I'm going to do, on the second button, I'm going to add pad y equals 5. See what that looks like. Okay, it leaves decent amount of space. I guess we're going to do 10 there. Yeah, that looks fine. So it has a register and login button, and it leaves a bit of space in the bottom as well. So that's the front page of our actual banking application. Obviously this is just for beginners, so there's nothing too complicated in here, but it should be enough to be added to your portfolio, because we're going to be doing quite a bit with it. So now we need to add some life to these buttons, because they're just dummy buttons right now. They don't have any command assigned to them. So let's go ahead and assign them to the commands. So you're going to go inside the properties for the button and not for the properties for the grid. So properties for the button, after with command equals, I'm going to call my command register, and I'm also going to do command for login, command equals login. Right, so those are the 2 commands done. We're going to have to create functions for those in a second. Now before we do that, we need to do a main loop, so master.main loop. So what this does is when this application is run from the command line, or when you double click on this application, if you don't add this line called master.main loop, your app will close instantly, and then it's sort of like it just crashed. So you need to add this in so that the application can stay in a loop until the user actually presses the X button and just quits. So yeah, that's what this does. Now let's go ahead and create a function. So I'm going to put the functions right under the main screen. I'm going to do functions, and then in here what we need to do is mention the function that we have. First function, I'm going to do a dummy function, not demi function. Actually, let's do the login a bit later. Let's do the register first, since we're actually working with the register. So register, not going to do anything in there yet. Then we'll do login, and then here we'll say this is a login page. Cool. So we're not doing anything in the login yet, because that's probably going to be done in the next tutorial. In this tutorial, we're only covering how to do the full registration. So when we have a register, what I want to happen when we click on that button is we need to have a little pop-up window that opens up for us. And then when that pop-up window opens up, we should be able to pretty much enter all our details and then press on a button that says register, and then it should just register an account for us using a little file. So let's go ahead and create a pop-up window. So to do that, what you need to do is we need to go into the register function, which we're in right now, and then type in, I'm going to just type in register screen, because that's what it is. And then we create a new variable called register screen equals top level lowercase l master. Now we're not creating a new window using TK. because there's by good practice, and you should always do this, you should only really have the main screen that's assigned to TK. Anything that's a pop-up window or another pretty much like a part of a GUI application for the main application should be assigned to the top level, and then you pass in the main window in here. So that's what we've done, and what this does is pretty much just creates a little window for us. So it does that, and then it has the same properties. It's inherited pretty much the same properties as its master window. So I'm gonna have to change that obviously by doing register screen dot title, and then we're gonna pass in register because we want it to be called register. Cool. Let's go ahead and add our labels now. So label, I'm gonna do why did I? Okay, label, and then I'm gonna do register screen because we're not placing this on our master anymore. We're placing this on our register screen, and then we do text equals. Please enter your details below to register, comma font equals Calibri, comma 12. Oops, forgot to close the comma 12. Dot grid, row equals 0. Now we start from row 0 again because this is like a fresh screen. Sticky equals north because we want it right in the center, and padding Y is going to equals to, let's take a look at what we have going over here, 10. So padding Y equals 10, and then you have to simply run your program to just check if this is working. So we can quickly check if this is working by pressing on the run button. So I'm going to press F5, enter, and now if I press register, we have a little pop-up window that says register, and we have a title that says please enter your details to register. Now in here we're going to create like a form, so that, and then two buttons that, and then one button that's going to let the user register. Cool. So let's go ahead and do that. Now we're going to need a few more labels, because obviously we need to let the user know what field of information they need to enter. So I'm going to paste this 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. Cool. Now I'm going to change the text for each one. First one is name. Second one is going to be age. Third one is going to be the gender. And the fourth one is going to be password. Because hey, you need a password to log in, don't you? Right, and then we need to change the rows. So rows 0 has already been stated, so we do row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4. Now we want the sticky to be towards the west, and we don't need any padding, so west for all of them, because we want them to be on the very left of the screen, so that there's enough room for an entry. Because these are just the labels, they won't let the user enter anything in there. So I'm going to get rid of this. Sorry about the keyboard noises, it's just this Cherry MX Blue switches are so loud. I mean, they're satisfying for me, but they could be quite annoying in the video. So I apologize. I'm gonna run this now to see how it looks. Register. And as I predicted, we have all the labels showing up. Now right next to the label on the right hand side, we're gonna have entry boxes for the user to enter the information. Let's go ahead and do that quickly. Now we're gonna do another section for entries, and then entry register screen, because that's where we want to place it. And then we don't need text for this actually. I'm gonna place this on grid row equals 1 and column equals 0. So I'm doing row equals 1 because I want it to be in the same row as the label. So let me show you what I mean by that. I'll run this, and as you see, when I do row equals 1, it goes in the same row as the name label, and then it's in a different column though. So it's not, it's nicely it's nice looking, and it's just decent. It looks like a decent form to have. Right, so I'm gonna close this off, and then I need to mention something important. So whatever data is entered in this entry needs to be saved temporarily into a text variable. So we need to type in text variable equals and then we're going to assign it to the variable. So we're going to have a variable called temp name, and the same way we're going to have variables for pretty much all these entries to save the information that they're going to be, that the user is going to enter in them. So temp name, temp age, temp gender, and temp password. So this is nothing, so if I actually run it, it's not going to show you anything. Okay, what's wrong? Oh, so basically it's given me the error because all of these variables are still not defined. So we're going to define them quickly. Let's define them at the very start, and we're going to call this was, or variables, and then temp name equals, they're all going to be string variables. Temp page equals string variables, temp gender equals string variable. You might argue, why am I not doing the age as a integer, but it's going to cause problems down the line while saving it to the file, so I'm just going to go with string for now, and we don't need to specifically have an integer as an age because we're not reusing it anyway, so it's all good. And temp password equals a string variable again. So what this string var does is it just initializes an empty string variable so that it can be used somewhere. So now if I run this, it shouldn't give me that error anymore because these variables actually exist. Okay, so I think I forgot to change the, yeah, I did. So I forgot to change the rows, so row 1, 2, 3, and 4 instead of just row 1. Click on register, and as you see right here, we have a nice looking GUI now. We have name, age, gender, and password. So when I enter any detail in here, it straight away gets saved into this little variable that we've created right here that says temp name. If I enter anything in age, it will get saved in temp age. If I enter anything in gender, it gets saved in temp gender. Anything in password, temp password. Now we need to censor this password real quick so that the user can't see what password they're entering in. We do that by going to the entry for the password and then going in and adding a property called show equals speech marks and asterisk. So it's only going to show asterisk instead of the actual characters that the user is typing. So it's kind of censored. Right, cool. So that's about it for the entries. Now we're going to go ahead and create the register button. So now if I can go ahead and create my register button, button, and it needs to be on the register screen. Text equals register, command equals finish reg, which means finish registration, font equals Calibri. I'm going with the same font to keep it consistent, and then finally .grid, row equals 5, comma sticky equals north because I want it to be in the right in the center, and pad y equals 10 because I want it to have some space from top and bottom. Cool. Now we need to quickly create this function called finish registration, otherwise it's going to cause a tantrum. So we're going to do another function called def. Bear in mind this function needs to be above register so that I can actually see it. Finish reg, and we just print done in here for now. Alright, cool, run it. And now if I register, we have a nice looking GUI app where we can enter all our details. We press register, it just says done, and we can keep pressing it. And as you see, the password doesn't show anymore as well. Cool, so let's go ahead and actually program the finish reg bit where we actually take the user's details, save it up as a plain file without, like, not a text file but a plain file, and then we also add some validation to make sure that the user is actually entering all these fields of information. We're also going to make sure that the user cannot overwrite a existing file. So if there's a user with the name Johan, the program shouldn't allow another user with the same name to pretty much overwrite his file and create a new account. It'll make more sense in a moment. Anyway, so what we need to do next is quickly need to globalize these variables right here. So since we need the name, age, gender, and password, we're going to be needing that in the finish reg function, and since the variables are local to this function, we're going to have to globalize them. Pretty easy stuff. We just type in global temp name global temp age, global temp gender, and global password. What this does is it makes these variables available to the entire program rather than being just available to this register function right here, because we're going to be needing them in the finished registration. Cool. So now let's go ahead and do the function, the last function of this session. So this function is going to look after creating the actual account, making sure about validation and all that. So this is where the actual logic goes in. So my favorite bit, let's go ahead and grab all our details. So name equals temp, name.get. So as I said, it temporarily stores it, so we need to actually use a get method to actually get the value of that field, and then it gets stored in the name variable for now. Now age equals temp, age.get. What else do we have? Gender equals temp, gender.get, and then password equals temp, password.get. If this stuff is confusing to you guys, I really recommend you guys to go through the few of the tutorials that I have about tkinter. It will really be helpful. If you guys are fine so far, then that's really good. So what we need to do next is we also need to have a track of pretty much all the files that are in our folder. Since our accounts are going to be stored as files, the file name of the file is going to be the name of the user. So if a user with name Johan was to sign up, for example, this program would create a new file in this folder and call it Johan. And there wouldn't be any .txt or anything, it would just be Johan. So we need to kind of know what files are in this directory to make sure that someone with the same name cannot overwrite my file, if that makes any sense. So what I need to do next is we need to go ahead and find out what files are in our directory. So create a new variable called all accounts equals OS, because as I said before, we'll be using operating system to get the list of files that are in my directory. So list dir, and we'll just print all accounts for now. That will show you what I'm talking about. It returns an array of all the files that are in the folder. Register. Alright, it's because I haven't... Oh. Wait, hold on, what? Temp password is not defined. Oh, I forgot to add the, silly me, temp in there. So now it's temp password. Now, okay, I did that quite quickly, but guys, what I had messed up was I forgot to add the temp and underscore in there. So make sure you have that in your programs. I'm gonna click on register quickly. This is annoying. And when I click on register, as you guys can see right here, I have a list of all the files that are in my directory at the moment. That includes the py file and the png file. Now as soon as we have populated this directory with actual account files, we're going to get those in there as well. So we're going to use this to validate and make sure that no one is able to overwrite anyone else's file. So let's do that quickly. So we need to do something like... So wait, hold on, before that actually, we need to make sure that no one can, so when they click on register, no one can click on register without filling in these fields. Because if they do, we might sort of have an error in the future, because we're going to have an empty field for name, or we may have an empty field for password. We can't really have that. So the user is going to have to fill all of these fields before pressing register. So let's add that validation first. So if name equals blank, or age equals blank, or gender equals blank, or password equals blank, then we're just going to print for now all fields are required. Else print actually we don't even need the else, we're just going to make a return here, and then we're going to print good to go. Wait. Right, so let's run this quickly to see if our validation works. Register, and it says in the background it says all fields required. Let's add some data. register, and it says good to go, mate. So the validation is working. Now obviously we don't want it to say all fields required in there, so we're gonna have to add like a little label that's gonna hold the notifications, such as all fields required, account success, account failed, all that stuff. So what you want to do is go back to your register function, and in there we're gonna have to create a new label. So if you can go to your label section in your register, so this is where the comments come really handy because our code is really organized and it's easy to go through it. So go to the end of your label, create a new variable called notif, and then equals that to label register screen. Okay, why am I wasting time? I'm just going to, this tutorial is very long, I apologize guys, but this program is going to be very long, and if I try to make tutorials shorter, this series is going to last forever. I'm going to try and cramp as much as I can in this tutorial. So label, and then register screen. The text, we don't need this field because we're going to be adding the text later based on what error or what success message we get. So based on the notification, we'll be adding the text later. This is fine. We have to change the row to, the row would change to, okay, so we're not going to use grid here. We're going to have to, so select the dot grid, cut it off, and then do notif, and then paste the dot grid and all of that stuff in there. We're going to have to change the row to 6. I think it's 6. Let me take a look. Yeah, we need to change the row to 6 because the button's on 5. We want a notification to be under the button. Sticky will change to actually north, and then padding y equals 10. This will look nice. Okay, cool. So when we run this program plain and simply, nothing will show up, but we need to actually add that text. So instead of printing all fields required, what we could do is, actually before doing that, since notif is, the label is just local to this register function, we need to make it global. So we do global notif. Right, that should sort that out. And now instead of saying all fields required here, we're simply gonna have to do something like oh god, what's wrong? Notif.config foreground, which is the color of the text, equals red, and text equals, that wraps up today's session. If not, we have to deal with what is gone wrong with it. So we're gonna click on register. We're gonna type in actual, okay, let's go ahead and fail it first. So register, all fields required. Let's type in a name, Johan. Let's try registering now. Still, cool, 21. Still doesn't want to do it, obviously because we have validation. Mail, nope, we need password too. So password's gonna be password. And now it should just work, and it says account has been created. Now if I click on register again, it says account already exists because it knows that it's literally just gone ahead and created a file with Johan. So when we click on registration, the validation once again to make sure that this name doesn't exist in a file directory, and if it does, it says it already exists. So as many times as I create this, it won't overwrite the previous one. So I can close this, and just to verify that it's working, we are going to go into my file directory, which was banking GUI app, and we have a new file indeed that says Johan. Now if I go ahead and press F2 and add a .txt extension to this and open it, as I said before, the first line includes my first or the name that I gave it. Then we have a blank line. Then my password was password, which is why it's written out as password, because my password was actually password. Then we have a new line, we have the age, and we have a new line, and we have a gender. So we've pretty successfully managed to register our user and save the details into a file and also add validation. Now I'm gonna go ahead, make sure to get rid of the .txt extension, otherwise your program will not work properly on validation. So it needs to not have any file extension, just like that. Okay, so that was it for today's tutorial, guys. Hope I have been able to help you out. This is quite an interesting project, and it could be one of your big projects that you can show off in your portfolio really well. If you guys have any suggestions for videos after this, please post them in the community tab. I'm going to be posting the next few parts of this video very soon. Like always, the code for this program is going to be in the description. However, I do not encourage you to just copy and paste the code. I encourage you to go through the tutorial and learn how this works. because that way you actually take something away from this. And if you guys could share this video among your fellow programmers, that would be amazing. Also guys, I'm going to be linking my Discord channel for this channel in the description as well, so if you guys could go ahead and join that. It's very chilled out. You can meet new people on there, speak to them about programming, I don't know, make friends I guess, and you can also mention new ideas for videos, because I am on there most of the time and it's a lot easier for me to see new ideas that you may post. Anyway guys, I'm not going to bore you anymore. Hope you guys have enjoyed, and I'll see your beautiful faces in the next tutorial. Peace.